Houston, we have a problem.
Like, we just made this. This is our baby, you know?
Good.
And like we were just super pumped about it. And then when we got the email back from Electric Hawk when we sent it to them, they didn't just go all out for that track. They wrote an article. They made us like promo videos. They got our song like playlisted on stuff, and it was like that. Electric Hawk made our vision come to life, and we were hanging out, doing our thing, and all this cool shit was happening, and we were just like, oh my god, like people like this just as much as we do. And like that was a really cool reminder to like, you know, even if when you've played a song and made a song so many times, you'll never have fresh ears on it, but you never know how someone else will be able to react. And that's my main goal. Is like, I have two goals for myself, and that's to make music that I really like to listen to myself, and to keep one-upping myself. I've noticed that with projects and sessions, like I tend to like let them grow with me. Like I go through bouts of hating them. I go through bouts of wanting to delete them. I go through phases of like loving them and really like getting like really enjoying listening to them. And then it's just flip flops all the time. And what I've learned is to keep one-upping myself and to try and keep making stuff that I really like. And then the second thing is to make things that other people would like to. That's a huge goal of mine. Is like I would love for when I even the littlest compliment of like, hey, this was really good, like it goes a long way for me, because it's just like that means so much, because it's like
priority to stay working on stuff that means something to you first, and then you focus on your audience. Is that really your relationship with
definitely them? I definitely think like, you know, the artistic independence is such a huge thing. Like I think like someone like Getter, for example, like I'm not the biggest Getter fan, but but I definitely respect the dude. I think he's hilarious. But he was a original dubstep guy, and then he made like just like full on like wonk 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 wonk, and then went to make his forget his record name. He made it, yes, Visceral. And like that was so cool to me that he just was like, yep, I flipped on it, like this is what I like, this is my thing, like this is the music that I listen to right now, this is what I made, and I did. And like that, even though he got so much flack for that, and he got so much hate, and he shouldn't have done that, he shouldn't have gotten hate from that, like at all. But that meant a lot for me to see, because I was like, damn, like this dude, he could have easily just done his Getter thing, but he decided to do a completely switch up on his audience and himself. And so I think at the end of the day, like you know, I've come from making, you know, playing jazz music and blues music and progressive rock and like math rock, and electronic music is such a new thing for me. Who's to say that down the road I didn't want to do some kind of elements from that stuff? So it's like I'm so yeah, to answer your question, definitely like for myself first, but but also like having people like react to your music, and you know, add your song, or like on Spotify for artists, it'll say how many people are like listening at one time. Like sometimes I'll just go on there every once in a while, and I'll see like one person listening. I'm like, oh, thank you. Like, like that's so sweet. Like thank you. Like that means so much to me. I don't know. And like and so yeah, like that, just even just like the little like I've had any listen goes a long way, you know, and it's just like, and I just really appreciate it, because at the end of the day, I'm doing this for me, and then if other people really like it too, then that means the world. I would say like more of a professional goal for me is I could give a fuck about money, like I really don't care, but like that's such a last thing. But like a professional goal for me is, I love my ultimate dream goals are to get recognition from artists that I love and that I respect, and that I like look up to, and then also like playing shows. Like really, like those two things for me are like that. Those are dream goals. Like if I ever heard RL Grime drop something that I made, I would I would freak out. I would make my whole life, you know, whereas like, you know, even getting like, you know, recognition from anybody is just such a dope feeling. Cause like, you know, you work so tirelessly on music, and like, you know, like I said, like you let the tracks like grow with you and stuff like that like, you know, you kind of, when it's all said and done and you've wrapped up a track, like, you know, to have, and you're tired of it in a way, to have people be like, oh, that's really good. It's like, oh my God, maybe I did a good job this time, you know, and you're never too sure. Cause like, I'll listen to tracks now. Like I have 4 tracks out at the moment, and I'll listen to one self-released. And yeah, one self-released, and then 3 are released. But those, like, I'll listen to those tracks, but I'll be like, damn, that kick is too loud. Like, you know, so like you're never quite done, but like to have people respond to your music as it is and sort of in its place, there's a bow on it, there's no going back, it's printed, is a great feeling.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's almost like it's like a relationship, and you know, it's funny because Getters come up in like probably every episode we've done so far.
Really?
Yeah.
I know, dude. He's such a great example, though.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. But that goes to show how like influential feedback can be to an artist, you know.
Yeah. But like also taken with a grain of salt too, because Visceral got so much flack, but I mean, at the end of the day, whatever, he did what he wanted to do, and that to me meant more than the album that he came out with. Was just like, this dude is going about his own, he's putting a new project under his project name Getter, you know, and that was so sick. And but yeah, I guess like, you know, feedback is such an important thing, especially in the producer community, you know, because like, you know, you figure like you're ripping a guitar solo on stage, that's live, right? Like you can't like, yeah, exactly. You're getting the feedback from the audience, and also like when that's done, it's done, and you can play another solo another time and it'll be different. But with production, it's printed music. Like you've got it in front of you. Like you can change it when someone says change that, you can change it immediately, you know? And so that's a really interesting thing. And so like feedback, especially between producers, is like something that I love. I'm in a position right now where I have so many amazing friends, like my buddy Cameron False Color, that like he's kind of my go-to for feedback, because like I send him tracks all the time. He'll give me feedback. He sends me stuff all the time. I'll give him feedback, and like having a direct line for that is really cool. Another person I'd want to shout out is Slang Dogs. I don't know if you know those guys, but they're from the Bay Area. They're such dope dudes. They're coming up right now in the Bay Area. Like they do like feedback streams and stuff like that, and they on Twitch, which was never a thing before the quarantine. And like so now you can, like, now again, like I am a product of the quarantine, man. Like, you know, I like being able to excel production like now is better than I think it ever was. If anyone wants to get into it now is the time. And like I mean, there's always a good time. It's always a good time to get into it, but like now especially, like I thought I had more resources like with YouTube and everything like that, but now it's like live, like seeing your heroes do production streams. Like Bauer does like a production stream every day. It's like, wow, like you can watch people do that, you know, and that was never a thing before now.
That's awesome. Do you feel like you're getting more attention to sets than you would have? Like new music you're releasing now is getting way more eyes than it would have pre-quarantine, just because people weren't so virtual then.
Yeah.
So we were very virtual, but it's almost like it's increased so much since quarantine because people go into this virtual world maybe for reasons for escapism or just because it's innovation, and they're looking at new artists like you coming up, and then they're looking at your labels you're producing through.
100%. Like I think everyone's on such a ground floor because no shows are being put. Well, like some drive-in stuff, but like really shows are on pause. It's everyone's inside. You're getting more attention to people that are like, I just feel like there's this resurgence of like underground people. And to be quite honest, like kind of what you were just saying, I probably wouldn't have been releasing music if it weren't for this time. I probably would have just been doing this. I mean, I was about to say doing this for fun, but I'm still doing it for fun. I'm not. I ain't shit, man. I'm not. I ain't shit. But like, I wouldn't have been releasing music or like being serious about like being an artist or like having a project, like if it weren't for this time at all. Like, and I think that a lot of the opportunities that I've had in the last few months, like getting a few, records signed and, getting some attention from like other artists that I really love too, is like, which means the world, is like, that would not have happened if this wasn't going down, and so like, as shitty as right now is, and as terrible of a time like in history as this is at right now, it's forced a lot of people to kind of really focus in and really kind of like make the most of this time as it is right now. And as terrible, I mean, look at you guys, man. You guys, like, I'm like, when I heard that you guys made the start of quarantine, I was like, we're on the same train. but it's true. It's like it's made you want to be creative and makes you want to like do that thing that you've always had in the back of your mind, because now we have a lot of time, and it's like, and more time to think now. And so, yeah, I did that. I hope that answered your question.
And more. It answered.
Right on.
The awesome thing about, I already like love talking to you so far, because you just go off these ideas.
I'm sorry, man. If you can't tell, dude, shout out Phil's, man. This is rocket fuel. I'm normally not this chatty. I'm usually pretty like, yeah, man, for sure, 100%. But like right now, this has me like on the moon, man.
Oh,
like,
no, we usually start every episode with the cheers, but since we kind of just hopped right into it, we can do
cheers, yeah, cheers.
Yeah, we've been recording for about like 10 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, because what'll happen is you get on these really good thought trains though, and we don't want to cut it off, so we just kind of keep going.
Right on, man. Right on.
Anything, you don't want some of that in there, but
yeah.
Take care of it for you.
One thing I wanted to touch on, you have made mention a couple times about the idea of like deciding and jumping into music, and I've noticed that being like a common denominator between people we've talked to so far. It's like there's a moment, maybe it's not an exact moment, but like a period in time where you just decide that I'm going to start doing this. And like, how do you feel?
Oh yeah.
Point, and like, what was that like for you to finally just decide like I'm gonna actually do this?
Yeah. First of all, I think that anyone can produce. Really. I think that there's so many tools out there right now for anybody to just jump in and do it. And what quick story is I met like these two dudes around my age, and they literally were like, I sent them the Ableton trial in the beginning of quarantine. Like, just because they're like, oh yeah, dude, I'm trying to get into like music production. I was like, cool, I'm kind of hitting it hard right now too. And they're like, oh, word. So I sent them the Ableton trial. These dudes in 4 months less have sent me tracks that they're making, and they're just so good. Like I'm so impressed. I'm so proud of these guys. Like I'm like, holy shit. Like they just amplified their thing. They jumped right into it. They got obsessed. They did their thing. And when you first start producing music, at least for me, I'm just thinking really broad here, but like for me, and I've noticed a lot of trend with people is they go, I need to buy like a ton of plugins. I need to buy every single thing. I need to buy a keyboard. I need to get this program, and I need to know this, and I need to learn how to make every single sound that there is, and I need to like learn synthesis, and it's like I need to learn math, and I need to learn like why the earth has global warming to like be able to make a music on Ableton. And I was that guy, man. I still am sometimes, where like I think my first year of producing, I like bought a ton of plugins. I don't know why. Like I just did it. I bought like 3 saturator plugins, and I didn't even know what a saturator did, And so or compressors too. Like I just bought a ton of plugins, and so but what I realized is that like all you need is Ableton. And so one of the things that I've really been like kind of going by is like keeping everything simple. And like a lot of people get turned off initially if they're just doing like if they're doing the buy-in add-ons for like stuff, and like buying a ton of synths and instruments and things, because now they have all this stuff but don't know what to do with it. But if you just use the program for making music, whether it's FL Studio, Ableton, any DAW, you can make incredible things off of that alone. And then you introduce the plugins later, or you introduce the samples and the instruments later, because it all lines up. And like, there's a lot of people will get discouraged when they first start trying to make music, because they'll be like, I'm not good at this. I can't do this. I'm really slow at this. I'm like this. But there's a time where the fog is really heavy and you don't feel like doing it. And I've been there more times than I can count. But then the fog goes away and you start realizing that everything that you overcomplicated for yourself is actually very simple and right in front of you. And that was the moment that I decided to jump in. And I feel like a lot of people decided to jump in, and that's what motivates them, is because like you sort of get this sort of like clarity that like, oh, maybe this is simple. I saw the inside of Formula by RL Grime and Jules. You guys know that song? It's a beautiful song. I saw the inside of that project file once, and it's all Ableton stock. Really? It's all Ableton stock. There's a few plugins like for mixing, and there's a few like there's like I think he uses Sylenth for one of the synths, but the rest of it, the bass, the arp, the lead, the vocal, those are samples, but the it's all Ableton stock. It's all about finding the samples and building your world in the track. It's not bells and whistles. And RL Grime is one of my favorite producers, probably my favorite producer. Him, RL Grime and Boombox Cartel are like those are my mainstream favorites, like for sure. And like those, like seeing the inside of that project file, I was like, God damn. Same with Boombox Cartel. He did a production stream back in April, I think, or maybe May. And I'm out here thinking Boombox Cartel is like, throwing all these bells and whistles, but watching his process was so simple. Like it was just so, I watched all 4 hours of it, but it was such a simple I remember, dude, because it was so late when I was watching the stream, and I was like falling asleep, and I was like, this is so sick. I was like, this is like my dream come true. And so, but people are just so simple in their process. And like, that's what gets, that's when you start to feel inspired. It's like when you start like making something and you're like, wait, that was really easy and I like this, but we tend to overcomplicate things, especially with like producing music. And yeah.
And I feel like it's so cool that guys like that will open up and show people what's in it. It kind of feeds into the idea.
It's great.
About like room at the top. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it seems like as a community, the EDM community, like producers seem to be very open with their like skills and are able like follow that mindset of room at the top. Like, what do you think that is?
Yeah, so I think if more people thought like that, then it would be a lot nicer. Definitely, luckily, I can say that all of my friends that I have like that produce music feel that same way. Like we are all helping each other out. We're all like, a W for one of us is a W for all of us. Like that's the way I think personally. That's kind of the way that I roll. But there is some sauce that you do with production that's your thing. And like, you do it one day and you're like, damn, like, I think I just found something new. But at the end of the day, there's nothing new under the sun, Yeah. And so, but yeah, I mean, that's another, that like kind of going off of room at the top, like that's yeah, it's just a matter of like, I mean, I think that we all love music. We all love listening to good music. So if we could have more good music more often, and you learn that by getting, taught a different technique that maybe you didn't know, and it helps a lot, like it helps a lot. Like I attended this stream by Great Dane, a couple of weeks ago. He did this like class, and he did this, like, I learned like 3 things, but those 3 things I've done every single time I open a session now. You know what I mean? And like, that's like that I learned the Great Dane hi-hat trick, or like, with the RL Grime and Jules project file. I was like, damn, like I know the instrument that he made to make the lead, and like I've used that lead a few times now just to like kind of hear what it's like. And yeah, and so like I think, you know, again, like we all want to listen to good music, and I think that helping each other out in that sense is definitely what brings us far. Now the business side of stuff, which is something that I don't know or I'm slowly but surely kind of on the bottom of that, like just creeping up towards the bottom of like, you know, what, like, you know, signs and like like all that stuff. I can't really speak as far as like the business stuff for that, but at least for like producers, I feel like generally there's this sense of community and an open book for like tricks and tips and stuff like that. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to receive feedback on stuff, like I was saying, like with the feedback streams or, you know, different techniques that I never knew of and stuff like that. And it's just people helping each other out. Yeah.
It's getting connected to that collective. Is that a really big thing to use? Like it's the collection of artists, it's the community.
Oh yeah.
As much it is your own individual process. That's how you create that relationship with a collective of artists that are trying to better each other.
100%, man. 100%. Like I'm actually in a Discord channel with I think like 30 people. And they're the name of it's Visaya. Shout out Visaya if they're listening. But those two dudes that I said that downloaded the Ableton trial, like those guys are just like, they're always hitting up that Discord. Like, can you guys tell me a little bit more about this? Can you tell me a little bit more about this? We'll hop on Zoom calls all the time, and I'll teach them stuff. Like so. And like one of the dudes that's in there like went to Icon Collective, which is a music school in LA, and like he's always down to show the sauce and always down to show some tricks. And like that sort of community that we've built in there is like, I mean, those like the two dudes that I'm referring to is a testament of that. But I definitely have gotten my fair share of knowledge of wealth from that as well. And so I'm really, again, I'm really in a fortunate position to have people that are like supportive and also are able to teach. And that's only something that I could ever hope for anyone to get, you know what I mean? So like if there's any like producer that's like thinking about jumping in or like wanting to like get into like making music, then I'm my DMs are open. Hit me up, because I love that. I love seeing people grow with their production, because again, it happened for me so fast, and I wouldn't have been able to you know, produce the stuff that I've made. Not saying anything's good that I've made, but I'm definitely feel good behind the things that I've released this year so far. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if it weren't for the group of people that I'm friends with.
Right. And do you think it's a normal thing for producers to see their own stuff and go, hey, I'm not sure if it's that good, but like I kind of like it, but it might not be that good. Is it
Oh my God.
Perfectionism though? Is it that perfectionism that producers have? Because we've heard this from a lot of producers we talk
to,
bring up their own work, and they go, oh, well, I don't even know if my stuff's that good yet, but then we'll listen to it. Yeah, but then we'll listen to it.
Well,
like,
yeah.
At every point, is it arrogant to say that you like your own shit or not? Because like
that's a great question.
Yeah.
It's a great question, because again, I've listened to my as many times as my song's probably been listened to by somebody else or other people. I guarantee I've listened to it more, you know, like, because in the session itself, like, oh my God, the snare sounds like shit. Like, oh my God, this kick drum is terrible. Like, I fucking hate the way that this flows. Like, oh, whatever. And like, but yeah, I definitely, I mean, I think by next year, I haven't listened to the song that me and my buddy Cameron False Color came out with, for about a month now, since it's been out. But I know that in a year, I'll listen to that, and I feel like I'll either be like, damn, this really was terrible, or I'll be like, oh, but it will always be that served its purpose at the time. You know what I mean? Like, it'll always be a special moment that you can't ever take away. Like, it's so easy to look back in hindsight and be like, oh man, maybe that song could have been a little bit better. But at the end of the day, like, when you've released a track that you have printed on your SoundCloud, on Apple Music, Spotify, that's it. It's like, there's something, the final export of a track is like a very like very like melancholy and what's the word I'm looking for? It's like it's a God. It's a very overwhelming feeling to be like, all right, export. It's on my desktop now. It's one big package, and I think as much as it grows with you, like I have said a bunch of times in the session when you're making it, it definitely will grow with you out too. I all the songs I've released have come out in the last few months. So I haven't had it time to let it grow with me. I'm still relatively new to releasing music. I haven't really been at this for a while with releasing music, but I can only imagine that by this time next year and a few years from now, I'll look back at my first stuff and feel really good that that came out at the time, but also be like, all right, well, on to the next thing, and yeah.
It's looking at it in the context of when you released it. Do you think that gives you some freedom as a creator because you're watching yourself grow, not just taking you at one little snapshot and being like, this is why it sucked. Oh, why'd you do that? And then you go like, well, I learned, I grew, and then I came and I became a different person.
100%. Yeah. It's like, again, it serves its purpose, like for when you release it. Cause like on, when the song that came out on Myopic, like that was a song that I had made in one night. Like I refined it over a few months after that, but the main idea came together in one night. That's typically how I work. Like I usually will hold on to a project if the main idea is good, and I usually get to that main idea in like a day or like 2 days. And then after that, it's refining it through a few months. But that track came together like super fast in like one night, like in April. And then it got released in the beginning of October, and that was a few months before it got released. But I had already listened to it and refined it and worked on the mix so many times that by the time it was released, it was like that sort of fresh ears feeling wasn't there. But that song got a lot of love from other people, and that's why I was kind of going back to like the validation part. Like you can't ever listen to your music for the first time again. So when other people listen to it for the first time and they react accordingly, like that's beautiful. Like that's like, damn, like that really means a lot. Like that makes your motivation go up. And the negative comments that'll come out of it, it's like that stuff, like that stuff doesn't really it's people have their own opinions and stuff, just like people have their own opinions whether they think something's good or not. But it's like that kind of thing is like, that's not even really a big deal. You know what I mean? Because like but the positive ones, like the validating ones, like again, the any amount of plays that I have on whatever track just feels so good and feels so
good. You feel like being more receptive to the positive comments makes you more sensitive to the negative ones.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think so. I got one comment once. This was so sick. I got one comment once, and I hope that people don't do this because they see this. But I saw one on my track. It just said "suck," and my buddy was gonna frame it for me. But I was I'm more looking at it like, damn, okay, all right, all right. But again, everyone's got their own opinion. It's like, whatever.
Well, it sounds like a really healthy mindset about negative criticism. Do you think that may have developed with your past of playing like live music, or do you feel like that's just a way you've thought?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's a great that's a great segue. Like, I think being like, again, being 14 years old and playing in a band, you're not making good music. You're making some shit music. By the time you're like, fuck yeah, I'm a rocker, like I got long ass hair and like, whatever. And I'm like opening for like a band that's playing Warped Tour, so yeah, I think going through it like young like that, like being the stuff that people being the band that people would leave the room to is definitely a humbling experience because it kind of toughens you up a little bit, you know what I mean? So like feedback in any way. I'm pretty. I feel like I'm pretty good at receiving feedback, and that's part of being into production. Is like there's so much feedback going around all the time between producers, between listeners and producers, between listeners to listeners. Like it's just all over the place. You can't escape it. So I think being good at receiving feedback is just as important as anything else. And so it's and that's a lot. That's another thing that people can get discouraged from. You know, like when I was starting to produce like 2 years ago, before I started taking it serious, and I made something that like I really felt proud of, but in reality just didn't sound that good. Then you know, a lot of people will hold on to that first thing of work. It's one of those like refrigerator pieces where you like want to, it's like you feel it's like it's like baby's first beat kind of, you know, and like that's, you feel so good about that, but then your friends are like, oh, it's kind of whack, you know. If I had listened to the bunch of comments that I got about my old stuff, then I would have been discouraged, you know. I would have not wanted to pick it up again. But again, that's part of the fog that I was talking about. Like you just have to break through that fog. You have to break through those moments of just feeling like you want to give up, or you're not meant to do this, or you're not meant to work on music. Like you're not a musical person. Like that's all bullshit. That's all complete bullshit. Like if you feel like you have it in you, you have it in you. And you can do it. Like I will die on that hill. Like I really feel like the more time you put in and the more feedback you receive, the better you'll get. So but yeah, I think that definitely being the 14-year-old shitty band was a great experience. Dude, oh my God. And like shout out like the friends that would come to those shows, because I swear we thought we were hot shit. Like, oh my God. Like we thought we were hot shit. Like, you know, back in like my freshman year of high school. Then like towards senior year, we would actually like be playing like pretty decent shows, like, which was so much fun. And like, that was great. But like our friends would like show up and be so supportive of us and like be so cool. But like at the end of the day, it was really bad music. You know, and I had those archives somewhere. Hopefully no one will ever find them, but yeah.
It sounds like you didn't really realize that you wanted to get into electronic music until after you had left that band. Was that difficult for you? I don't know, were you like the one that kind of broke the band apart? Were you all you guys like splitting ways, or?
Yeah, they all went to college, and I moved out here. And so I think it was just one of those because we would play almost every weekend at a venue in somewhere in Connecticut or on the East Coast. And that would like, so being in that like sort of, you know, vibe was really, by the time that we were in like about to go all of our separate ways, it was kind of like one of those all said and done kind of things. And I still talk with them every once in a while. Another dude, actually, one of my friends from that, it was a 5-piece. One of my friends is actually doing engineering and producing hip hop beats for rappers right now.
Oh,
so he's killing it right now. And he's such a dope dude. And like we're definitely cut from the same cloth, you know, literally, you know. And so yeah, so I think, you know, it was one of those things I was like, yeah, this is all said and done. But I won't forget our last show was so sick. I had always like our last show, we were in this venue, our favorite venue to play in, and all of our friends showed up, and it was one of those, it was a very, very like emotional thing, because I'd been with these guys all throughout high school, like play all the time, like so many shows. And we like playing that last show was like damn, like this is it. This is like our whole music life is just like this was here. Like we went from slamming like terrible things, learning our instruments, to then like having people like you know, sing along to stuff, which was so sick. And that was Yeah, that was so much fun, and I made so many cool friends along the way too. Again, like Connecticut sucks, but the Connecticut fucking sucks. But the music scene for like high schoolers and shit back then, like when I was in high school, was like something that I am so grateful to have grown up there for that.
But why Bay Area of all places from Connecticut? Because you say Connecticut sucks, you didn't like that vibe, but you did like the music aspect of it. But what was it just I don't like Connecticut so much I'm gonna go to the Bay Area? Or was Bay Area this place in your head where like that's where I'm gonna go if I'm gonna make it? Or was it just like Bay Area is dope? Like what was that for you, an 18-year-old?
Yeah. Did you get the first part of my story recorded or no?
Probably.
When we're on FaceTime?
Yeah, because if not, I'll just retell it.
It's recorded, but I mean we.
Okay, I mean I'll brief. Yeah, so basically being in. Actually, I don't even think I answered that. So never mind. I don't know why I just asked that. My bad. But being from Connecticut, it's a small little town. Nobody there. Oh well, not nobody there. It was pretty big. My town was pretty big, but like small little town, nothing to do. That's what I was looking for. Nothing to do at all except for drive around and like go Dunkin' Donuts. That's it. And like and so so being from out there, like California was always such a buzzword in school. Like it was always, and like the other weird interesting thing about Connecticut is like everyone that would live there, that lives there, like also stays there too. Like there's so many people that are like deeply rooted in Connecticut. It's like there's nothing to do out here. It sucks. It really sucks. And so
yeah, we'll get that point.
Yeah, it's I'm very passionate about it, but at the same time, like again, everything in retrospect, like I look back on Connecticut, and there's a reason why I spent the whole quarantine out there, was because I felt comfortable, I've learned to love it since I've been away. I definitely have. I've learned to love it. Would never move back, but I definitely have learned to love it. And but so Bay Area, California was always such a buzzword, and like always like heard that it's 3 hours behind us, so like it would be I don't know, it was just there's palm trees and beaches and shit like that, like it was warmer, and like like especially like Southern California, there's like movie stars and shit. There's like always such like an allure to being like out here, like an allure to being out here, and like being in like a suburban town in Connecticut, like you always kind of like wondered like what it would be like to move. And so kind of what I was saying my story earlier is my cousin gave me 2 months of my senior year summer from high school. So I graduated to find a job and find a place. And in that in those 2 months, I was originally like had this sort of California mindset of like I'm gonna be where it's warm, and I'm gonna be where like all this stuff is popping. But I moved in with my cousin for 2 months, and I remember being in the airport waiting for her to pick me up my first day ever here, like moving out by myself, and I was freezing. And the Bay Area is not like the rest of what California is played out to be. So I thought I got played, man. I really did, because the Bay Area is cold and foggy, and like like granted it's sunny right now, but it's like it's pretty like it's pretty gray out here, And so the reason why I wound up in the Bay Area was because I wanted to live in California, and my cousin lived a town down from San Francisco, and I lived with her, and the natural progression was just to go up to the nearest city. But I've been out here 5 years now, and I can honestly say that I love it out here. Like I love it. The vibes out here are just so cool. San Francisco especially, like you don't need a car. I don't have a car. I do everything by foot. Like, I say that I have a BMW, which just means bus muni walk, And so, like I've been just, like I love this city. You can get anywhere. It's 7 by 7 miles. So less than 1 million people live here. So you kind of like run into people sometimes. So it's it's a great city. And so again, as luck would have it, when you least expect it, I had thought that I was going to be in LA or some shit, but I wound up here, and definitely up here for the foreseeable future. I'm sure I'd love to move eventually somewhere else. Definitely won't be up here for my whole life. But for right now, I'll always, even though I'm from Connecticut, I'll always say that this is home, because I've been out here 5 years now, and this was my landing zone when I was, just off a risk after I graduated high school. So definitely has that sort of sentiment. That's the word I was looking for earlier, sentiment. Yeah, but yeah.
So did you still have your mindset when you moved out there? Were you still thinking you wanted to pursue music? Obviously you hadn't run into electronic music yet, but were you still thinking you wanted to meet up with people, get back into a band, and keep doing that?
Yeah. So again, didn't know any electronic music at all. Like didn't like know anything. I think I listened to Skrillex a few times back when, like, 2012,
Yeah.
like Scary Monsters or something. Like that's the most I knew.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I came out here with my clothes and a guitar and some stuff, and like, so I definitely like was gonna keep the music going. I've been, I'm gonna do music the rest of my life. Like I regardless of in what form it is, just because I've always done it. And so, sorry.
So I'm saying, like, outside looking in, someone would look at that scene of 18-year-old you coming to Bay Area,
Yeah.
starving artist right there. Did you feel like you were starving as an artist, or did you feel like you were being fed in different ways?
No.
So you were doing something you love.
Yeah, like I didn't really come out here with the intention to do music. So the starving artist thing, that like I wouldn't say that I was ever that. Like I wasn't, like, I have dreams, man. I got pipe dreams, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, like, you still want to like live your life, and you still want to, like, like you want to take risks, like you want to do those risks, like you want to take opportunities and go for them and stuff like that. But at the same time, like, I still want to, like, live my life and and everything. And so a starving artist, I'm more hungry for knowledge and making stuff. But of any artist that goes, I'm gonna do this, full time, I'm gonna do everything, I have so much respect for that, because it's just, I know a dude actually from this Discord that I just mentioned earlier that literally quit his day job, and he's doing, like, visual stuff right now. And how's he doing? He's super successful. He's doing great. Like, and if the opportunity ever arises where I can do that with music, then absolutely I'll take it, and I'll do it. But at the same time, I still need to know kind of my place in this right now, and that's to keep doing what I'm doing. Like, most of my favorite producers, like, that I look up to at the moment, are in college right now. Like, they're going through college, like, they're doing their thing. They're working part-time somewhere, like, and then they're doing their music stuff off to the side. And I would kind of put myself in that category, where I still want to, obviously I'm not going to college. I work full time, but I do this off to the side, and this is what I do for fun. And if my for fun thing that I love doing becomes a career one day, or like something that I can actually do, like tour or something like that, oh my God, then that would be incredible. But again, things happen when you least expect it. So I'm just going to keep doing my thing and stay in my own lane too,
One of your foundational principles with being, hey, I'm doing this because I love it and I'm playing and I'm having fun with it. And it's always going to be, that's like the core of it. It's never going to be like you're selling it for something else. And that's what makes your work is you're like, I'm playing right now. I'm creating this thing that's dope, and it's giving me this feeling of satisfaction and joy. And that's where it's coming from. And that makes you your authentic self as an artist.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you nailed it, because back in high school, like, when I was going to high school, but I was playing in a band, you know what I mean? Like, I was playing, and like, I don't know, I've always had the two worlds, but like, at the end of the day, like, I'm never not going to do music. I'm always going to do music. And so, and I'm always, and like, especially now, since like I have music being released and like I'm starting to release music, I'm feeling more hungry, like, for releases and more music to make and stuff like that. And so, like, it's definitely becoming more of a priority now than it ever was, because it's like shit's it's like getting real. It's feeling like it's like I'm actually doing stuff that I've seen other people do for a while, and I'm so humbled and grateful for that. But also, I'm still just I work retail, and I happen to live. I live, I pay rent, and I live in a apartment, and I love doing music, and I'm not ever going to stop doing that. And eventually, hopefully, one day, like you never know what could happen.
What was
But
it like to be picked up by Myopic and Electric Hawk too? Because was that kind of like a tipping point for you? That was like a shift, or did things kind of just stay due course? And you're like, oh, this is something new and different and cool, or was it something
yeah.
that was like, wow, I kind of made it, I guess, or I'm making it, and there's validation.
Yeah, I mean, not quite. You still got to know your place.
Yeah.
But that's a great question, because that was the most humbling thing. Like, because I know exactly where I was making those songs, and like what went into those tracks, and to have an outside, like somebody like Myopic or Electric Hawk, or when this comes out, Bonsai Collective, like be able, like to be like, like, oh, we really like this, we'll take this with me, we'll take this with us, was like, wow, like that's amazing. And so like I was so humbled by that. I was so I have bought merch from all of those places. I was, I've been such a big fan of a lot of what they've put out for a long time. So that to then see them take something that I have and promote it just as much as like I've seen other people do it, like other people get it. It was like it went full circle for me, and I was so happy by that. So like that especially just like re-upped my love for this stuff even more, if anything. Like it wasn't so much like I made it, because I'm not going to stop there. Like I definitely, I want to keep doing my thing, I want to keep making music, but it was definitely like like I wouldn't have gotten the same amount of attention on those tracks if they didn't release them.
Right.
But the fact that they did, and the fact that they promoted them, and the fact that they've been equally such an amazing community to fall back on as well. Electric Hawk is incredible. Those guys, like those guys and girls, everyone that works for Electric Hawk is a beautiful person. And the Myopic, the same. Like the guys that run that are just the coolest people, and they're so cutting edge. And I think it's the friendships and the people that you make when you do that, because going back to the room at the top, you know what I mean? Like they showed me love. I'm going to show Electric Hawk for the rest of the time I'm producing music, and same as Myopic, and same as Bonsai, because they gave me an opportunity when I was, just thought that I would just post this to SoundCloud one day. They actually made it a full release. So that was, again, it wasn't so much like I made it. It was more of a, wow, this is really, really, really amazing and really, really special.
Well, right back to that collective you were talking about at the beginning of this, is that you just got connected with this whole other community of artists, and then like you got paid a bunch just in that. And of course, they're distributing your music for you. But at the same token, you have this whole new community of people that you can collaborate with.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And like, that's only something that I could hope for any producer, is like that they find their group of people that they trust, and like they have like they have a false color to fall back on, and like and they have somebody that they that they really like, that they feel comfortable enough to share their music to, because it's vulnerable to share your music, man. It really is. Like, like it takes a lot, like, especially with feedback streams, man. Like those feedback streams are like you'll be watching like these streams, and like seeing like however many people, 30 people to 100 people listen to your track and comment real time in the chat. It's like, that's a terrifying feeling, but it also grows you. It also helps you grow. And like, I think that's so important, but also having people that you can go to immediate, not just wait for those Twitch streams. Is just as
kind
important.
of a tool to help you see how your music comes across as well, because you'll throw this new stuff out there, and if it's live and they're giving you comments right back, it's like back when you were playing music in high school and rocking out, and you're like, how are they responding to this vibe? And they're like, they don't like it. And then there's that whole process in your own head where you're like, am I actually expressing myself the way I want to? And then are they still vibing with it? And then you kind of go back and forth, and that's kind of
exactly. Yeah, 100%. You nailed it. Yeah. I think the other thing is like one of my favorite things about like producers, especially because it's so different from any other world, is again that sort of you know, you are your own band. You know what I mean? Like you're in control of the drums, in control of the synths, in control of the elements that are in your sound. And um you can, like, if I hear a song that's made by Caption, I'll know it's Caption. Or like Jules, I'll know it's Jules. Or like, like when you hear an artist make their sound, because it's so them. And that's something that I'm chasing at the moment, is I'm looking to find what I want to sound like and what I want to do. And yeah.
I wonder, do you feel like it's more vulnerable when you're releasing music as like a producer than you back when you were playing as a band, since you are in control of like every nook and cranny, every piece of the music? Is it more vulnerable to kind of put that out there?
100%, because in a band, you've got other people to help you out, because other people are responsible for their job, where with this, it's like you've got the whole thing, you know what I mean? You've got the whole track. Like, and so, yeah, because there's so many more elements to worry about. It's equally like, there's a lot. It's a lot. I haven't felt this much pressure on music my whole life, but there's something about it that's so like as far as like making something like that I like. But at the same time, it's rewarding, because when you do make something that does fulfill that for yourself and something that you are proud of, then the nights that you miss, the one time that you hit, is just like, it makes all those misses worth it. It gives you this sense of euphoria when you do that, because it's like I honestly, right now, as we speak, I'm in a writer's block, 100%. I've tried the last couple nights to make something that I've like just sit down and like go for it, but granted, I've been distracted from like moving and stuff into this new spot, but like lately I've been kind of feeling not as creatively sparked in like, but I know that in whenever it happens again, I'll be in a mode where it's just I'm just cranking, I'm just doing my thing, and that's just part of the process. Yeah.
Is it that faith and that understanding of yourself too is what keeps you healthy in those moments? Because I feel like some people can be very self-deprecating to themselves as artists, because especially if they identify a lot with being an artist, they're like, crap, I can't make this right now, and that means I'm not like I'm not validated, and not all these other things. The really interesting thing you did at the beginning is you talked about your art, but then you also separated yourself from your art at the same time. You're like, I'm me, but I do art.
That's so important, man. At least for me, because like I know people that are, when they can't when their snare doesn't sound good, then they go in a fucking frenzy. Like they go down a rabbit hole of, like you said, like you nailed it. It's being self-deprecating, feeling like you're not good at this, feeling like this, that, like feeling like you're not doing it. But it's all part of a wave, man. You can't be on it all the time, and like even my favorite artists I know have had writer's block. I know that they go through moments of not wanting to make anything. Like, that's reassuring for me, because it's just part of the process. You can't be on it all the time. So if you aren't, then that's okay. Come back swinging. And like, honestly, I've taken a couple weeks off from making music, and I've gone back and made my favorite thing that I've had made at that point yet. So it's like those breaks do a lot too, because it gives you time to reset,
Right. Do you think that imposter syndrome too comes from overthinking? Because the big thing you nailed was simplicity. And it's like, hey, and what was beautiful, what you said is, hey, if you feel like you can do it and you have a drive to do it, you can do it. Stop overthinking it. Ride the wave. Learn.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I took it. But do you think that overthinking is just that's part of what creates that imposter syndrome, and maybe even just
absolutely
your writer's block at that point?
Absolutely. Familiar with Kenny Beats?
Yeah.
Kenny Beats' phrase is dots. Don't overthink shit. That's what it is. And like, it's true. It's 100% true. But yeah. What you said, man, like the imposter syndrome thing, like, again, it's supposed to be fun. It's music. It's supposed to be enjoyable. And you're supposed to have a good time doing it. And so if you're putting your pressure on yourself for for something, like if you're just like putting all this pressure on yourself and you're not having a good time, then absolutely you'll find yourself in a bit of an emotional time with music, where you just don't feel like doing anything, and you have this sort of like imposter syndrome when really you know, if you spent that time moping around, like with learning a new thing, or maybe, you know, creating your own sounds, and not necessarily like making a not necessarily like making a song, like sitting down and like making a song, but if you instead spend your writer's block time to make new sounds to use later, or you make your sound, or like for me, like play guitar, or like, you know, go for a walk and listen to music, like it recharges your batteries and keeps you from being disappointed. So yeah, I used to be really bad with that. When I used to not be able to make a song like right off the bat, then I would feel excuse me, I would feel this like oh god, I suck at this. And that's what I was saying, kind of, again, it all goes back to that moment where you sort of break through this fog and you realize that like it's not that serious. You just have to do your thing. It comes in waves. And my shitty beats now that I'll make and scrap are better than the shitty beats that I made last year, that are better than the shitty beats the year before. Right. And then eventually, hopefully by next year, my shitty beats are really like better than the ones this year, and then, you know, so on and so forth. It's like you're just sort of refined your sound, and you refine like what it means for you to be an artist, because art isn't perfect. You know what I mean? And like being and it'll never be perfect for yourself. Like I just mentioned, like I'll listen back to some tracks that I've released in the last couple months. I'll be like, damn, like that kick is really loud, you know, but other people will be like, damn, like this was mixed really well. So it's all relative too.
What's the concept that you were talking about a couple episodes ago? The gold and the pottery.
Wabi Sabi.
Wabi Sabi.
Yeah, we had this producer Tio on, but he's big on that.
I watched that one. Tio seems like a sick dude.
Hit him up, dude. Hit him up. You guys should.
I will. He seemed like a really cool guy. But what was he saying?
He was talking about this concept called wabi sabi. I think it's Japanese culture, it might be Chinese culture, but if they have broken pottery, they'll just kind of fill the cracks with gold. The idea is that there's beauty in imperfections, and that kind of ties over to life and art. But you look at this piece, and maybe it's just like out of nowhere, and you think it's shit, and then you look back and you're like, hey, if I tweak this, this, and this, it'd be kind of awesome. But that's the process. It's just kind of going through it and then not having a fixed idea in your head of how something should be. Just kind of
I love that. I've actually never heard. I watched part of the episode. Truthfully, now I didn't watch the whole thing, but I must have missed that part. But I promise you, I'll go back and listen to that, because that's beautiful. I love that.
It just takes some of that pressure off. You know, I feel like that's very therapeutic. And the thing, actually, kind of a segue I want to tap real quick with you. You said you go on walks. When you go on walks, is it kind of like you just let your head wander, and then you'll hear a random sound or thought, and you bring that back in to whatever your creative process at, or even just adjust your life? Do you give yourself that freedom, and that freedom is beneficial to you?
Yeah. So like with walks, like I definitely, whenever I'm outside, I'm always typically listening to like music. I always like have headphones in or something. And so if I'm like listening to music that I really like, sometimes I won't even listen to electronic music. Like when I'm like, you know, that especially, like when you're making like really aggressive trap music, like I like to make like cinematic, like bass music. The last thing you want to listen to is just Screech to the Dome. You know what I mean? You want to listen to like something else. So like, I'll throw on like Pink Floyd, or like, you know, fucking John Mayer or some shit, and just like vibe out to like other music, and just kind of reset my ears, reset my head, do my thing, not think about music, just enjoy music for what it is. Like listen to stuff that got me inspired. Like a lot of people will be like, oh, that was my old music. I'll listen to my old music, you know, which is still very much my music now. But yeah, I think I'm more just like those walks that I go on. And the reason why I keep looking over here is because I usually go out here, but is I typically am always I'm always like, I don't know. It's like I'm always just kind of resetting my clock and being like, this isn't that serious. I'm just doing this for fun. Like I know I'm thinking about the kick and the bass not hitting right now, but that's okay, because it's all gonna hit eventually. You know, it's, you know, and I guess it's like, again, just like kind of offsetting the stress, you know, and enjoying music for what it is. So
enjoying that relationship.
Oh yeah.
Has that relationship been compromised at all? Like since you've started to produce, like has it gotten to the point where you can't enjoy music the same way, or have you not experienced?
Yes and no. Like sometimes the opposite actually. Like and being able to enjoy it more. Like especially with the mixing side of things, like the engineering side. Like the mixing engineering stuff used to always be a magic superpower to me that I just never understood at all. And then that when I really learned how that like a lot of how that works, that was like a really big learn when I listen to music now. Because now when I listen to like, so I'll show you guys one of my favorite records. You guys are gonna clown me for this, but or maybe not. This is D'Angelo. You guys know this record?
I don't.
This record, I know it's a little suggestive with his shirt off, but
Oh, good.
this record I would not have listened to a couple of years ago because it's you know it's good, it's great music, but like but I mean I love the music in general, but I wouldn't be obsessed with this record if I didn't like if I didn't like super get into like learning like mixing and like audio engineering in that sense, because this record was made all tape, not a single Pro Tools session, all tape, all analog, all warm recording. And when you listen to this record, it's the most warm sounding sound that I've in the like ever. It's just you feel every piece of the sounds from this record, and it's because of the way that it was engineered. And so I think being into like producing and like hitting it super hard has helped me enjoy it like for those reasons. Like obviously like it's the neo soul record of the fucking decade. It's a great, the songs on it, even if I wasn't into it, I take back what I said before. Like I definitely would have still listened to that album, but I have a different appreciation for like good engineering and good, you know, audio and stuff like that because of being into this kind of thing. And so, but on the con side of that is sometimes yes, like listening to stuff that isn't so professional like that might make me like, you know, subtly criticize some things in my head. But then I realize, fuck it, you know what I mean? Like it's just like at the like, you know, for example, you know, not everyone has the beauty of getting their stuff properly treated analog in a room, and so, you know, if the artist has their kick drum or their snare super saturated and distorted, then they had it super saturated and distorted, and that's part of the final product. It's not for me to criticize, you know. In the production of a track, I would give that's where I would give feedback about kind of why I thought something was a little bit different, you know, or why I would have tweaked certain things. But if it's printed, it's printed, and it's just for me, and that's just for me to like listen to or not listen to, and so I'm not a huge fan of giving feedback on songs when they're out, because because at that point the artist said that it was good enough to put out at that point.
Right.
And so that's not for me to criticize, and it's
What
not for me.
What about feedback when you're producing? Is that something you're big on?
That's when I ask for feedback or give feedback to other people, is typically in that process. Yeah. In the process of when you're trying to like, you know, oh, hey man, I ran out of ideas. Like I like any suggestions on where I should go with this, or, hey, can you give me some feedback on my mix? Or like, is this a little too loud? Should I change this? When you have the session in front of you and you're able to edit it, then that's when you should give feedback. This is just, again, this is all personal preference. This is just the way I roll. Some people won't. But if something's printed at that point, it's not for me to give feedback on, you know what I mean? And it's just for me to either support and listen to, or you know, keep my thoughts to myself and not really, you know, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I think, you know.
How important, because I feel like we're living such a critical time right now, just because everyone's on like Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat.
Yeah.
So many different ways of getting judged sometimes, but I think sometimes if you step back and you look at it, it's like, well, how important is it actually to judge someone? Because you start thinking about it, and it's like, maybe it makes me feel good, where I'm like, yeah, that sucks, or like, yeah, that's like all right. But at the end of the day,
I hate that, man.
Yeah, people fuck with it or they don't fuck with it, and like I feel like
exactly
what we need.
Exactly, man. Like I could have said it better. Like I'm not gonna comment on some dude's beat saying, nah, this is trash, because why would I do that? You know, like the guy that, shout out the dude that said suck on my song, because he decided to put suck on my song, and it made me laugh, to be quite honest. Like, but just like if he were to listen to that song, just just don't listen to the song. You know what I mean? Like don't listen to it. Just let it be. You know what I mean? Like the people that do comment nice things, then fucking thank you. Like thank you so much. Like that means so much. But the negative comments and stuff, like we don't need that, man. We don't need that in with art or music. We just don't need like there to be negativity. Like, like if you go to a museum and you see a painting and that painting has like a little dot and it's just a dot in the center, to me I'd be like, oh, that's just a dot, that looks whack. Why would you even put that up in a museum? But then another person would be staring at it and they'd be like, that is the most profound, beautiful thing I've ever seen. You know what I mean? And so once you kind of realize, you kind of have to put art and music in the same, they are the same thing. Art and music, they're basically the same thing. So it's like think of them like music as like paintings. That artist had a different mindset than you do. You have two different ears, two different brains, two different lives. And that's what's so beautiful about it, which is why when the music that really resonates with you, that's how you develop your connection to that artist. Is because, for example, like let me take a song like this is the first song that came to my head, because it's just the newest song that I've been obsessed with. But there's a song by a guy named his @ is Beats by Fate, and his name is Fate, and he has like 300 followers on SoundCloud, and he makes like hard wave music. And RL Grime put one of his songs in his mix, and I was listening to his mix the other night, and RL Grime's mix, and he played the song. And this song, it's so simple, but it resonated with me so hard. I was like, this song is beautiful. This hits. Like, this is such a gorgeous song. Like, and that's what made me be like, I connect with this artist. Like we have the same ears, or we have the same taste. And then I, obviously dropped him a follow and shit like that. So like that kind of, like when you obviously you listen to a lot of stuff that maybe you don't care for, and then but the stuff that you do care for, that's the stuff that just really means a lot more.
Yeah, well, it seems like music is a gateway to connect with people in a way that's really low friction, fun, and accepting, which is
it should be. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely
maybe
should
that's
be.
not always how it turns out, but I think that's what the world kind of needs right now, is that feeling of, and I'm obviously generalizing quite a bit, but I think it's a good thing to say, is you need that just kind of, it's scary to accept people the way they are and meet them halfway. And music has this channel where it's like, you like when it goes bleep blop bloop bloop.
Yeah.
Bleep blop bloop bloop.
like dude, I swear, like when I first started getting into electronic music, I listened to, I won't forget the first time I heard a Boombox Cartel song. It was Hefe, and I was like, this is fucking noise. Like, I can't stand this. I'm obsessed with Boombox Cartel now. I fucking love Boombox Cartel. He's probably my favorite electronic artist. Like, and like it's all a matter of like growing into certain sounds. Like, you never, like, it's a mood thing. You never know when your ears are going to switch up on you, or when your taste is going to go different, or like, and stuff like that. And that's part of the fun. You know what I mean? And another part of the reason why my artist name right now is just my initials is because I don't have anything to like fall back on. I'm just me. I'm just Andrew. Like, my initials are whatever. I've said a million times before, but I just want to get to the point where people just call me Andrew, just because I like that's just gonna, my taste is gonna keep switching. Right now I love very cinematic bass music or hard wave, and I really like drum and bass a lot too, but like really into like trap and bass music, and like and lighter stuff. Like, but like I'll probably on my way to my buddy Cameron's house tonight, I'm probably gonna listen to like, I don't know, some like Hey Manu, like, new like future bass set or whatever, even though he doesn't make future bass, but still like something like, or like maybe I'll even listen to this D'Angelo record because it's been like in my head ever since I mentioned it. So you just never know. You never know.
Such an odd phenomenon too. I've noticed this with well, I guess it's music in general, but with like with EDM, like you say, when you initially like may hear it or something, like maybe a little bit more progressive sound, like you're not gonna, like, may not get it at first. So like when you first enter the scene, like you're gonna completely have a different taste than a year's time from now. You're gonna listen to completely different shit. Almost like,
dude, yeah.
Almost absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have a quick thing. That artist that I had said that I was in the club and like my first time, and I felt the energy in the room start changing, and that's when I was like, holy shit, this is sick. I get this. That was Jaws.
Oh, yeah.
And
No.
so it was Jaws. I haven't listened to Jaws in like 2 years. I hope he's doing well, but I haven't listened to him in so long. But like that to me at the time was like, damn, like this bass house shit is crazy. I'm like, nah, I don't really listen to that stuff anymore. I still respect it. You know what I mean? I still like, you know, Jaws always has a special place in my heart, but like as far as like, you know, was the first DJ that I'd ever seen in a club. But like again, like yeah, like kind of what you were saying, Devin, like it like, you know, it switches. Like it just feels like I don't know, you just start it just your taste changes. Like if you told me that I would be listening to wonky ass like off time trap like 2 years ago, I would be like, ugh, this is terrible. Even 6 months ago, I was probably like, this is not good. But now I'm obsessed with it. I'm obsessed. And like, you know what's cool is like taking those different elements from all the stuff that you try and learn to produce. Like if you take something from like house music or something from, you know, drum and bass. Like I use drum and bass like drums in my trap beats all the time. Like I use or like drum and bass like breaks, like the techniques from like breaks and like hard wave music. I love like when like the breaks in between like the future stuff. You'll hear that on my song with False Color Etalon. You'll hear like there's like some breaks in there and stuff that like or just add more, and that's from like producing drum and bass, you know. And so like all those elements and all the different um, like genres that you jump into to try and make you like you kind of you collect your knowledge, you know what I mean. Like I that's another thing going back with like artist expression is like, you know, when Getter made the Visceral record, he didn't get worse at bass music, he got better at producing you know, because he made something completely different. And so that's what I'm saying is like, you know, who's to say that after this podcast, because again I'm still thinking of this D'Angelo record, that I don't make some neo soul shit after this. You know what I mean? Like, right? And then I, you know, make neo soul trap hard wave future music. You know, like, I'm just kidding, but like with drum and bass. But no, yeah.
Well, and that's something we were talking about the other day, just kind of how electronic music is, in a sense, like the pioneer, like the frontier for music right now. Is it a pressure, or is it like is it exciting for you, like feeling like there's like no limits really, essentially, right, when it comes to producing electronic music?
Oh yeah, it's so cutting edge, man. Like again, I the one thing that Tio said in his episode that was really cool is he said that genres are such a hard thing to define, and that agree with that wholeheartedly. Like, you know, at the end of the day, like all of my favorite artists, you just can't put them in a genre. They just make music. And like Tio said that, so I don't mean to copy him, but he was totally right by saying that. And I think the cutting edge feel of like, you know, having all these different things to pick from and choose from, because, you know, a lot of electronic music is sampling other music too. Like those break beats from drum and bass are from albums back in the 70s, you know what I mean? Like, and so on and so forth. And so like Core by R.L. Grime is a really famous Egyptian flute from like a long time ago. So it's like that's the main sound that's from that's a really old sample. So like you sort of like with today's technology, it's electronic because you're taking all these sources from all these different styles and combining it in your own thing, which is another reason why I've always loved Bonsai Collective. And I'm so fucking excited to be releasing on them, is because these guys are all about jazz music. Like they have jazz progressions in their stuff. They have really interesting sounds that like really interesting trap sounds that I've just never heard of before. And like I love how cutting edge they combine with like these amazing soundscapes and like just it's so hard to describe. It's in its own thing, but it's everything that I've always liked in an electronic music form. You know what I mean? Same with like Sable Valley. Sable Valley is like probably I mean, I'm wearing a shirt from them right now, but like their like RL Grimes label is so cutting edge, and that's one of my other like low key, like no, it's not low key, it's a high key dream of mine to be on Sable Valley. But like for them to you know, have their like cinematic like bass sounds and this just this energy, and it's just good music, like, you know. but you just, I don't know. If you can't if you can tell, I'm pretty passionate about just you know, talking about how you get to like the end result, you know, and because that's something that took me the longest to figure out. And I'm still figuring it out every time I try to make music. But yeah.
I wrote this down because a while ago you dropped the name John Mayer, and it's gonna go back.
I don't know if you've heard of him.
Oh my god, dude! I'm about to get clowned for this. I just want to let you know.
Well, no, I mean, I'm a huge fan as well. I think he's incredible, but I wanted to kind of ask what an artist like John Mayer, who is very, like, obviously very skilled at what he does.
Yeah.
What sets that man apart from all of the other very skilled guitar players that exist in the world?
I'm gonna get very clowned for this because I know I'm gonna have friends and coworkers that listen to this, and just like it's the second thing that people learn about me is that I'm the biggest John Mayer fan. The first thing they learn about me is my name. The second thing is that I love John Mayer, and so I always get clowned for this because John Mayer in his own way is like his own meme. You know, he's like, everyone's like, oh, you like Your Body's a Wonderland? I'm like, no, I don't like Your Body's a Wonderland. I like his blues stuff. I like his guitar, but I like Your Body's a Wonderland too, you know, but maybe not, but anyways, so, but I'll get back to your question in a second, but yeah, I've been a fan of his since I was 9 years old. I've seen him 14 times. He's from Connecticut, like me. We're actually from the same county, so being a hometown hero is definitely plays a big part in it. I've been a fan of his for more than half my life. I actually have a Continuum poster right here. But yeah, I'm like the biggest. I'm such a huge fan of his. And so he's that dude is literally exactly everything we've talked about. It's funny you bring him up right now is because everything that we just talked about artist expression and, you know, phases and getting from one thing to another, he's been through in his career. I mean, if you look back to it, I just mentioned it, Your Body's a Wonderland is a pop tune.
Yep.
He then decided, fuck that pop shit. I'm gonna play in a blues trio and I'm gonna show people that I love playing guitar. And then he made another like sort of pop, sort of bluesy album, which is my favorite, Continuum, followed by Battle Studies, which is another incredible record. Probably Battle Studies is probably my favorite record by him, but Continuum is known as his best.
Yeah.
And then after that, he went on a hiatus for 4 years and made a country album.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then after that, he went even more country and lost some fans. And then he came back and made another bluesy, like pop soul record thing. And like, that's exactly kind of what we've been talking about. It's a great segue. Wow, you're really good at this, Devin. And yes, you guys are really good at talking, but yeah, but like that's literally exactly what you, fucking Devin and Jack for president, man. But that's exactly what I'm trying to say is like, it's all about going through the waves of what you feel is good and what you feel is right for yourself at that time. And that's something that I guess subconsciously, now that I'm talking about this, it's like, damn, like that's kind of what we've been talking about this whole time, but also that's how it should be. You know what I mean? Like when John Mayer was dropping that country shit, I was like, I'm not about this, but now I'll listen to it back and I'll be like, damn, like this is beautiful stuff, you know? But I think what separates him from other guitarists and from other like songwriters is that, well, first of all, is that he writes his own songs. He writes all of his own music. That's so huge because now the standard modern day pop star has like a million different writers on one thing, and John Mayer has him in a band, and that to me is like, so dude, that dude is wired so different in the way that he finesses words and just like plays, and he to me is the coolest dude alive, honestly. And so but like that said, he I think he separates himself from other people because he's unapologetically him. You know, he makes anything that he feels that is right. And, you know, if you're playing blues guitar and then you switch over to playing a country record, again, just like Getter, you didn't get worse at playing guitar. You just learned a new skill. You know, you learned a new technique. You learned a new style. And so that's why I think he separates himself from the pack more than a lot of people. And also, if you're the kid that pulls up to a party and picks up the guitar and people start calling you John Mayer, you know you made it if you're John Mayer. So yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's like oh, okay, John Mayer. It's like, you know, being the John Mayer of something isn't really a bad thing. So yeah. But yeah, on the guitar front, I'm very, very, very influenced by his style as well. Like he's his tone, his like the way that I've seen him riff for like 20 minutes at a show I went to once, just nonstop on the same 3 chords and just went crazy. Each bar was different. He's a magician and is my favorite musician of all time, as well as songwriter of all time. So yeah, I haven't listened to John Mayer in a long time, but that's probably what I'm going to listen to later, to be honest.
His genius in lieu of this episode earlier today, I was listening to his cover of "Bold as Love."
Oh yeah, the live one.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's a great show. Yeah.
Like, you have to be a true genius, true magician to be able to pick up that song and like,
oh yeah,
make it your own, but also keep the core beauty of it. Oh man.
100%, dude. And like the other thing too, I totally forgot to mention this, the Grateful Dead stuff too that he's been doing as well. Like he's been touring as the role of Jerry Garcia, which is like that. Like again, he didn't get worse at playing guitar. He's getting better. He's learning Jerry Garcia licks. He's playing with the Dead. You know what I mean? Like that. That's a true artist to me. Like that's a true person that just does what they want to do at the time. Granted, he has the money and the clout and the star points to do it. You know, like he can go from being a pop star to getting all of the OG members from Grateful Dead in one band because he's John Mayer, but he's also just an incredible artist for doing that and for following what he wants to do. The story behind why he decided to do the Grateful Dead is a beautiful thing. He was going in for a surgery and listened to Althea on the MRI and was like, damn, what is this? And then that sparked his obsession while he was recovering from his voice. So yeah. So I think that's like in short how it went, but like that was like, holy shit, like this dude just does what he wants to do. And I think that every artist should do that, you know, like if you're making like really, really heavy bass music, but you also want to take your try at making something lighter, you should just try it. You don't have to stick with your own thing. And that's one thing that I definitely am going to try and do as my music progresses, is not staying in one sound, but more having more sounds to pull from and to eventually be my own thing. I love electronic music for that reason. I love electronic music because it combines all the stuff that I've always liked in one format that other people do too. So
and it's like something to an artist being like unapologetically themselves. Like another example of somebody like that. Are you a fan of Kid Cudi?
My admittedly my Kid Cudi knowledge is vague, but I definitely know his music, and but I'm a outside fan of Kid Cudi. I'm not necessarily like a huge just because I'm not as knowledgeable. But what were you gonna say?
Well, just an example. Obviously he's like rap, kind of more indie rap, but then he just all of a sudden dropped, and you probably may not know of the record, but it's a complete punk record. Like he just got inspired.
Really?
Nirvana, yeah, but no. After that,
no way.
It's called "Speeding Bullet to Heaven," and it's a straight punk album. Like he got inspired by Kurt Cobain and
what?
Like that. Yeah, hand God, and it's pretty.
That's beautiful. I'm gonna definitely check him out then. That's sick.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Like that exactly. Like those are the kind of artists that I fuck with super hard, man. Like, oh my god, like that. Yeah, no, like that kind of. Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. I'm definitely gonna check that out.
Like simple, angsty, like guitar riffs and like screaming. I'm like, yes.
But when I think Kid Cudi, I think of him like being a rapper.
Yeah,
that's where he started.
Yep.
Wow.
He was always really ambitious with his sound too. Even in rap, he was almost feeding into EDM a little bit before that became a thing.
Yeah.
That's a true artist to me. That's a true artist. Again, I keep going back to my initials because that's just kind of what it is right now. Like like a lot of people, I think I said earlier, like a lot of people they'll be like, are you off? It's just my initials. It's just the letters. But if I could just go by fucking Andrew, I would, you know, because it's just, at the end of the day, I'm just some dude that's like in my own little corner making music that I like. And if other people like it too, then that's more than I could ask. And it's gonna switch. It's gonna change.
Right.
It's gonna go from I'm already going from making really heavy bass shit to making more melodic like sounds in like electronic music. And I'm really liking it so far. But who's to say I won't go back and I won't go even further back and make even darker stuff. You know, like it's kind of how I'm feeling. And that's the beauty behind music, and that's the beauty behind production is you know, with guitar, it's like, yeah, there's different styles to play on guitar. There's different like tunings you can do, and there's different types of music you can play. But when you have your computer in front of you and like an endless source of things to pull from, you can make whatever you want. And that's what's so cool about it.
And the barrier to entry nowadays too, you can do it from your computer and you can download Ableton as compared to 100 years ago, which you still could create music, but you literally can get any sound that you really need
Yeah,
via your computer, which is a beautiful thing.
we're in a crazy time with that. Yeah, we're right now, it's only going to be even crazier. Like right now, we have every tool imaginable to make good music, and that's what's really inspiring to me too. Is that I heard someone say this a while ago. I forgot who said it, but like I'll repeat it. Like we as producers all kind of pull from the same pot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like we all pull from clips or samples or drums or whatever, but it's a matter of like how you arrange them and do them differently is what sets you apart, and also what makes your sound kind of like stick out, you know, I like, again, the core sample Arl Grad, like that, the Egyptian flute, that's been used in jungle tracks, drum and bass tracks. It's been used everywhere. It's a very popular sample, but he took it and made what like a quintessential trap song from it, you know, that he basically, yeah, that everyone knows core, you know, and that came from the same pot of sounds that we, you know, could all use. And so yeah, that's another really cool thing about it as well. I produce a lot with like using samples and pulling from sources as well. I'm kind of a sound design novice right now. Like I like to like make my own sounds with synths and stuff like that, but I'm definitely more of like a rearranged mangle sample kind of guy. But I mean, hey, that's the name of the game. Hip hop records are that too, like sampling old records and stuff like that. And so electronic music is like sampling hip hop, which is sampling other things, which is sampling other things, and it all goes down the chain. It's all about breaking rules too, you know.
And it's like going back to like what you're talking about, just having that sauce and making it your own thing. And
yeah, oh yeah,
it's like everything on the sun's already been created, especially with music. There's only so many notes, right? So many things you can
right
do.
Exactly, yeah. And progressions too, yeah.
Cool part about EDM, it's like we're going to pay homage to the stuff that's already been created, but we're also going to make our spin of it and make it completely something else, you know.
Which is why it's like which is another kind of what you both had mentioned before, is like your ears progress over time. It's like you know, when I first listened to Hefe by Boombox Cartel, I was like, what the fuck is this? And now I'm like, this is so sick. You know, like this is so cutting edge. And then like one of my other favorite producers, his name is Misfit, MSFT. His stuff is super loud and very like one note, like like it's very like, there's all these like elements around that same like bass sound. And it's like that, to me, a few years ago would have been like, what is this? But he wouldn't have made that a few years ago because he keeps switching his artistry. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know. It's like, it's about breaking rules. Like I had mentioned, like throw a saturator on your master channel and see what result it does. You know what I mean? Like turn some buttons that you don't know what they do, and you might make something cool out of it, and rearrange it differently, you know? Keep pushing the boundary, and because chances are like, you're more ahead than you already think you are. You know what I mean? You don't need you can feel influenced by people, but at the end of the day, you're yourself. And that's another reason why genres are a little bit like are definitely like a hot topic right now, because people don't really like defining stuff by a genre, especially right now. Like that could very well change, like, but we're going to a point of there not being a genre. Like electronic music is like the the umbrella phase, but like it just in trap music alone, there's trap, hybrid trap, all this like stuff like that I don't even keep up with, but it's just about making music and like what sounds good and what other people will respond to, as well as like yourself.
Sometimes putting that name, I think, on the production takes some of the beauty out of it, because then you're saying this in all of its entirety is just this like rough category, but when you actually sit in with the music, it's so much more than just what the words are saying it is.
Yeah, 100%. Like
Process.
no, definitely that. Like no, I think that we're headed towards a really good like spot with people staying, like people doing other different things. And I think that cutting edge feel, going back to the previous question, was like, I feel like that cutting edge feel of electronic music is where the innovation behind music now lies. And I think that it's been around for a while, but it's only going to get even bigger. Like look at like every pop record on the radio right now. Like that's electronic music, technically, and so who's to say that someone like Misfit won't be on top 40 one day with making aggressive bass music, but
anything pop music can just be a way of luring people in to check out different genres, because it's something accessible and it'll get you in the pool, and then you can
it's easier to digest too. Yeah, I agree with that. Like it's easier to digest as well. Like like someone like Jack U, right? Like Jack U with Skrillex and Diplo, like that. Like they made that Justin Bieber record, but then they also made like other stuff. You know what I mean? So like definitely like the Justin Bieber record was like a lot more easy for like people that maybe aren't as familiar with that kind of genre to digest. But as time goes by and people's taste goes different, then like then absolutely, like we're seeing the switch is happening as we speak, and that's really cool, in my opinion. Like it's I think that it's like the switch is happening, and it's only getting progressed further, and especially with things like artists that are like on the underground, like we had mentioned previous, like coming up through this time of everybody being on the same playing field and getting a little bit more exposure. Like the fact that RL Grime dropped that song that I had said, the Fates track.
Yeah.
Fate has 300 followers on everything, and RL Grime has millions of fans. Right. And like the fact that even he like noticed this dude is like, that just shows you kind of in the spot that we're in right now.
Yeah. For sure. It's really unprecedented how people can access music and what fits them now. It can be so individualized. Someone can look on Spotify, SoundCloud, all these streaming platforms, and just get access to thousands of artists, as opposed to having to go to a record store and buy one record, have to save up $10 to get, a whole album, which is beautiful in its own sense. Hence the album One, which is over here. And
oh, nice. Yeah, nice.
Vinyl's coming back in the style, because there is that intimacy.
That's true too, man. Yeah, vinyl's coming back. Like I've got all these, like I got my record player right here too, and like it's coming back in full force. Like that's what's really cool too, is like yeah, we live in an age with like digital platforms, like vinyls were dead. Like what you were just saying, Jack. Like we like with streaming services and technology, we have access to like millions and millions of songs, right? And like of all different kinds. And but it's really cool that like when I buy a record, it's because I want to own it. I want to have it with me. That's my record. Something about the art on the inside, the artwork and the inserts and stuff is really cool. It makes you feel like a bit of a more personal connection to the record. So I think exactly that. Like I love how I like the spot that we're headed towards, with like there being a digital side of it, obviously, but I mean, you guys and myself, like we're just two people that we have our own records that we have, and like like that's like, or sorry, we're three people. I don't know why I said we're two people. We're three people.
Kevin and I are one.
Yeah, I was referring to you guys as one. That's my bad. But like we have our record collection, you know what I mean? And that's a bunch of other people have that too, and so I really like that. I really like that vinyl is back too, because there's something kind of therapeutic about like playing something front to back, you know,
Mhm.
like having a like a record that you're going to put on and listen, you know what I mean? And you're from front to back, you can't skip, you can't shuffle, you can't like choose a different song, you know, like so there's something really nice about
It becomes a
that.
conversation, you know. Would you agree? It kind of becomes like a conversation with the artist, and it's that whole nother level of intimacy as opposed to being able to bounce around everything else. It's like, this is what I'm trying to say in this album without words, with some words, but mostly with sounds. And then like let's see where it takes you.
Definitely. I am definitely guilty of being that kid that had got their first iPod and would shuffle every single song and skip songs and skip from one song to another. And then I would start getting really into artists. Like I would like listen to one artist for a while or skip artists, different moods based on that. And then as soon as I got this record player, like you said it beautifully, like it's a conversation. Like now I listen to records like front to back.
Mhm.
Like I listen because that's a story, you know what I mean? There's a reason why the artist put like that song before that song before that song, you know, in their body of work. A compilation is a little bit different. Like a compilation, you kind of like throw all these songs in one thing and, you know, kind of match excuse me, match the mood of like, you know, the tracks on a compilation with like multiple artists. But like an album, like there's like the beauty behind how an album flows is like is a great thing. And something like that is like, you know, like I mentioned them before, but like Pink Floyd, like all of their records are like those, like it's a story. Like you have to listen. You can't just listen. I mean, you can, I do, but like you if you're gonna listen to Dark Side of the Moon, you're gonna listen to the full record, you know. um uh then again, I'm also a hypocrite because I'll definitely skip to some songs inside of Dark Side of the Moon, but you know.
Well, the idea that it's there, and I hope that with the way electronic music is, and just music in general is structured now, I hope that we don't stray away from the idea of an album too much, because it seems like artists are doing it's you see it less, or at least I noticed it less with electronic artists like doing
Yeah,
full albums. But oh my god, I plug them almost every episode. But Son album one, like that was the album that like sucked me into electronic
there's
music.
always that one. There's always that one album or artist that will suck
Yeah.
you in. Yeah, yeah, I agree, man. No, like he especially, like I am a huge fan of Bitbird. I love Drulu, Drolo, whatever. They're so great. Yeah. But what'd you say? I missed that.
Show me, yo.
Jolo, or what would my friend say? Dr. Olo.
Yeah, there we go.
But like, yeah, it's funny you mentioned that though. Electronic art music albums aren't really a thing. So shout out San Holo for doing that, because that definitely is like, that's a rarity. And I'll be honest, there's not a ton of electronic music albums that have come out that I really like, understand, or like.
Yeah.
The ones that I do like, because a lot of electronic music based on singles or like EPs too, you know. Not so much full length 12 to 14 track albums. But some of my favorites are, I haven't listened to this one in fucking 2 years, but Porter Robinson's Worlds, front to back, beautiful. That's a great record. I mean, that's like, that is a world. Like that is like he has a message in that whole record, and he made it come across in 12 tracks or however long he has. It starts beautifully, it ends beautifully. R.L. Grimes' Nova is really good. But one of probably my favorite electronic music record is G. Jones, The Ineffable Truth. That one is like, it has breaks of there being piano with a forest in the back, of just like this crazy soundscape, and like with like the synth, and then it goes to like blah blah blah, like crazy like sounds, like how G. Jones does. But like that album, that record is a journey, you know. And that's like that kind of style of album in electronic music is something we don't see a lot of, like you said, but would be cool if more artists would make that a goal of theirs. But EPs are just as cool. you know, like 4 to 5 track EPs, because you can have a collection of work in an EP and put it out, and it's like that's really dope to me too. So it's like we might not be getting the full albums for a while unless you're like a mainstream artist, like, you know, I don't know, Skrillex is supposed to come out with an album, Boombox Cartel is supposed to come out with an album, but for now with us the small guys, like the like EPs are great. Like the best EP that I've heard all year is by Caption. He has an EP called Okami. Listen to that thing front to back. It's gorgeous. Like every record is just like, it's beautifully placed. It's its own world. You get moments of feeling aggressive. You get moments of feeling calm, and like so it's definitely obtainable. And it's so cool that something like electronic music, which is so computer and sample based, is able to obtain. You know.
Have you heard of a guy called East Coast?
Yes. He came out with an EP the other day, I think.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I dude, I still haven't listened to it, but yeah, he's like, he's on Bitbird, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, some of his stuff's really some Bitbird.
Dude, yeah, no, he's a, like, that's an artist, man. Like, yeah, I've heard some of his stuff, and it's like, that's beautiful stuff. Yeah, I definitely like East Coast a lot.
One of the, and why bring it up? I think one of the pros for EPs is that you can kind of, and you probably know a lot better than I do, but you can kind of get him out a little bit faster. Like his EP is about, like, over the past year, he lost his father a year ago, and over the past year, he just made these 3 songs, and like this was just his emotions of grief over the past year, and put that on. That is gorgeous. But
Beautiful. Yeah, I agree. And you're absolutely right in saying that you can get them out a little bit faster. Like, again, like a song is sort of like we had talked earlier, like when you have a song printed, it's your moment in time, right? Like it did its purpose for that moment in time. And like something like what East Coast did, I actually didn't know that. I'm gonna definitely listen to that with a whole new appreciation. But like, yeah, you are able to get those songs that moment, you know, a little bit, you know, faster. Absolutely. And like, I think that's so cool that he did that, because like he's gonna look back years from now at when he dropped that EP, and it's gonna be a lot more significant to him, you know, I'm sure. Just like, you know, like just the fact that we're even talking about that, you can kind of feel an emotion and like that kind of world through that is super special. Yeah, I agree.
Music's like this little capsule of emotion, and it's timeless and it stays archived. It's so interesting that you can just come back to it whenever, especially nowadays. Clicks.
Oh yeah.
Which again opens a portal to some other experience or world, but in a way that's so not intimidating. I mean, it can be. I guess some dubstep sets can be
some scary as fuck. Yeah.
But it'll just kind of invite you in, and it takes you to this different place and creates. It's literally magic, like you've been talking about. It'll just create these connections in your brain. Where you're like, wow, this is like a different way of thinking about this, a different way of feeling. It's just such a interesting service. And we always tell this to producers when we have them on the show, but like, thank you for doing what you do.
Oh yeah.
Have a service in that sense, though. You know, you don't take it too seriously because you want to have fun and you want to like be in that play state of where you're creating and you're being authentically you. But I think there's just so much benefit in having music as a gateway for people to enter into and just explore themselves and be their own person. And well, artists that have the right intentions that are getting into it because they want to do good in the world. That's just very motivating.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And I feel like my voice hurts from talking so much, so I'm sorry about that. But I feel like I just talked my ass off. Like I don't typically do that, so I appreciate you guys giving me an outlet to talk. And you know what's really cool. Like thank you for that. But what's so nice is that there's so many people like me and like my homies and stuff like that are just like really trying to do the thing, right? Really trying to make stuff that we feel is good and like what we want other people to feel. And so I always say to people like you know, like you guys, maybe that like I mean I see you have drums and guitar stuff in the back, so maybe you guys do make music, but we'll definitely talk about that but another time. But like you know, the listeners and people that give people an outlet for people like us to be able to share and do our thing are just as important. So thank you right back.
Yeah, brother. Well, your voice, you say your voice hurts, so we don't want to strain the vocals too much.
I'm sorry for talking so much. I talked my ass
It's fine,
off.
man. That's what we want.
Yeah,
But,
this is incredible.
Right.
so
Right.
what are good places? We know you're on Electric Hawk, and then you're also producing through.
Yeah. So I've got. Is this plug time? I think this is plug time, right? All right, plug time. So plug time is DMs are open. Anybody listening, hit me up if you wanted to chat music or want any advice. I love helping people out with that kind of stuff. Always down for that. But yes, so I have 2 tracks on Electric Hawk at this moment in time. In November 1st, 2020, I have 2 tracks out on Electric Hawk. One with False Color. It's called Etalon. The other one's called Massive. And then I have a song called Be Like out on my Myopic Sounds. And all music is on Apple Music, Spotify. I saw this thing called Deezer. I don't know what that is, but it's on there too. And then when this episode comes out, I'll also have a release on Bonsai Collective, which I'm super stoked for. Thank you. And then more to come. I'm hitting music all the time. And so if you guys wanted to join the journey and come through and listen to my stuff, then it's very well appreciated. And I would love anyone forever for that. So, yeah.
Cheers to that.
Cheers, guys. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks for
Appreciate
doing
it.
it.